Picture this. You are a pediatrician in 1967's Japan, and you see a young patient presenting with symptoms you haven't seen before: persistent fever, rash, redness, and cracking of the lips, otherwise known as strawberry tongue, and so many other symptoms. This is unlike anything that you've discovered before, and it makes you realize that this is completely new. Pediatrician Dr. Tomisaku Kawasaki described 50 cases of infants with these symptoms. Today, on Your Health and You, we'll be talking Kawasaki disease. Welcome to the CJC online platform. I'm Janelle Powell, your host for tonight. Your Health and You is a production of the Central Jamaica Conference Health Ministries Department and designed to present on health-related topics by sharing evidence-based information and naturopathic remedies. Your Health and You is aired every Thursday at 7:15 with focus on general health on first Thursdays, men's health on second Thursdays, women's health on third Thursdays, children's health on fourth Thursdays, and mental health on fifth Thursdays. And if you're paying attention to your calendar, you'll know that today we'll be focusing on children's health. Please remember that this program is for educational and informational purposes only and doesn't constitute providing medical advice or professional services. So, before embarking on any health related information presented in this series, we encourage you to seek advice or counsel from a doctor or a healthcare professional. It's all about Kawasaki disease today. But before we delve deeper into the topic with our guest, we are going to enjoy a reading from the book Counsels on Health by Ellen G. White.
The Christian Physician as a Missionary.
Those who have Christ abiding in the heart will have a love for the souls for whom he died. Those who have true love for him will have an earnest desire to make his love comprehended by others. I feel sad to see so few that have any real burden for their fellow men who are in darkness. Let not any truly converted soul settle down as a careless idler in the Master's vineyard. All power is given to Christ in heaven and in earth, and he will impart strength to his followers for the great work of drawing men to himself. He is constantly urging his human instrumentalities on their heaven-appointed ways in all the world, promising to be always with them. Heavenly intelligences, 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands, see Revelation 5:11, are sent as messengers to the world to unite with human agencies for the salvation of souls. Why does not our faith in the great truths that we bear kindle a burning ardor upon the altar of our hearts? Why, I ask, in view of the greatness of these truths, are not all who profess to believe them inspired with missionary zeal, a zeal that must come to all who are laborers together with God? Who will say, "Send me"?
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, Lord, we are grateful to you, thankful for your blessing, thankful for another Your Health and You, where we can learn about the beautiful body that you made and how we ought to take care of it. And the fact that sin is in this world and there are going to be sicknesses and illnesses, but you have provided means and ways in which to remedy. We ask that you'll be with us, that you strengthen us, that you bless us and keep us. And as we look at children's health, that you will guide us as we go through. We thank you for your blessing and your goodness, and may we play our part. As Ellen White rightly says, that we need to do your missionary work to serve, to help, and to heal. So, Lord, who we go? Let us all say, Lord, send me. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.
Celebrations air. Calm down and take a minute to breathe. How often have you heard something like that? It's said because breathing deep and renewing the air within your body helps clear the mind. Just as important as the air itself is its quality. Taking deep breaths of fresh air gives you an improved sense of well-being and improves the function of your lungs. In nature, it even increases the rate and quality of growth in plants and animals. Fresh air is almost a synonym for a healthy life. There is no life at all without it. However, the world today doesn't treat this issue as it should, and air pollution has become a real problem. Polluted air is found on freeways, at airports, and in poorly ventilated areas. As a result, 6 million people, mostly children, die every year from respiratory infections, complicated particularly by pollution. Despite the condition of the environment, you can still ensure you get as much fresh air as possible. Avoid tobacco smoke, take deep breaths, and exercise regularly. And as you celebrate a vital and fulfilled life, always remember the indwelling presence of God, the breath of life.
According to the CDC, 20.6% of adults and 19.5% of high school students still smoke. Tobacco use is the nation's #2 cause of preventable death, killing more than 400,000 people and costing $193 billion in healthcare bills and lost productivity each year. Furthermore, the growing popularity of smokeless tobacco products, especially among teen boys, is concerning. That's a fact. But there's hope. All of these deaths and costs are entirely preventable. Tobacco control has been identified as one of the 10 great public health achievements of the first decade of the 21st century. Leaders from many religious denominations have launched Faith United Against Tobacco to reduce tobacco use, protect our children, and decrease the terrible toll of tobacco. Visit www.tobaccofreekids.org to learn how you too can help.
Thank you all so much for tuning into Your Health and You. I'm Janelle Powell, your host for this evening. And today we're talking Kawasaki disease. You know that it's the fourth Thursday, so we're focusing on children's health. And I see a number of you in the chat. I'm going to take up my phone so that I can say hi to Maxine Anderson. She is a regular here at Your Health and You. So it's very nice to see you out tonight. We have Everett James sending everyone a great big hearty blessing, as well as Julia all the way from Canada. Hi, how are you? What time is it over there? And we have Egbert Rickman. Thank you so much for joining. And Petrona Anderson is wishing us a very, very good night. So here are 2 facts about Kawasaki disease so that you can have some context as to what we're talking about tonight. So earlier, I told you that it was discovered in Japan, but it's not a disease that affects only Asians. Also, diagnosing Kawasaki disease within the first 10 days is crucial to preventing long-term damage, including heart disease. We're going to get into the meat of the matter with our special guest, Dr. Curtis A. Price. Dr. Curtis A. Price is the president of the Pediatric Association of Jamaica. He's a pediatric consultant at the Maypen Hospital and the manager of Gilead Pediatrics Center in Maypen, Clarendon. He has dual passion for primary and secondary pediatric care, having completed undergraduate and postgraduate studies at the University of the West Indies, Jamaica, in pediatrics. Having presented at various conferences locally and internationally on various pediatric and lifestyle topics, he enjoys serving as an associate lecturer at the University of the West Indies School of Medical Sciences, Windsor School, and All American Institute for Medical Sciences. So that's all 3 of those places. I hope we're keeping track. But just before he comes, we're going to have a short break. And remember, the last time I was here, I told y'all not to Google. I encouraged you not to Google the disease so we can learn something new together. However, if you have any questions based on the conversation or based on anything that you would have researched in the short time you've been here, feel free to post your questions in the chat. We really love to interact with you. We love to feel that we're a part of a community and be able to have that kind of conversation going in the chat, and also share the link. If you know someone that can benefit from this information, just hit the share button, send it to them on WhatsApp or any other platform so that we can have a wonderful conversation, an informative conversation about Kawasaki disease. But until then, I'll see you on the other side of this break.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church Central Jamaica Conference, in association with Ebenezer and the Clear Park Family of God, Spanish Town, St. John's, and Sydenham districts of churches, invites you to the Blessed Hope Evangelistic Series with international evangelist Jeffrey Harriott. Starting August 4, every evening at 7:15 except Thursdays, and then on Sabbaths at 9:15 a.m. under the Big Tent at 58 Brunswick Avenue, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Come for health and wellness programs, prayer tower sessions, free weddings, marital counseling, soul-stirring praise.
Thank you for sticking with us. I keep muting my mic. It's almost as if I haven't gotten over that period of time where all of us were online and kept our mics muted by accident. But we are here with Dr. Price, who is here to have a conversation with us on Kawasaki disease, giving us the rundown on everything that we need to know. All of us, I'm sure, we either have a child or know someone who has a child. And so I feel like this information is very important for us because we never know when it can come in handy. So, Dr. Price, we're going to start off with setting the foundation of the who, what, when, where, why, how of Kawasaki disease. So we're going to start with what exactly it is.
Okay. Evening again, and thanks again for having me. I was a little late in coming, but thank God I got over.
You made it just in time.
Yes. All right. So Kawasaki disease is it's a relatively uncommon disease, but the sequelae is quite profound. And that's why we're discussing, Kawasaki disease in this context. Many persons who are listening probably have never heard of this condition. Actually, there might be even doctors who have not heard of Kawasaki disease or are not aware of how it presents and really what the intricacies of Kawasaki disease is about. So in a nutshell, Kawasaki disease, the other name for it is mucocutaneous lymph node syndrome. So it's a long name that really describes what happens with the disease. So mucocutaneous referred to, the mucosa is the lining of, areas like your mouth. All right. So that is called the mucosa. Cutaneous is skin. And your lymph node is what Jamaicans call Waxan kernel or Waxan canal. That's what most people call that. So they call it mucocutaneous lymph node syndrome because it's an inflammatory condition that involves, the mucous membranes of your eyes, your mouth, and skin involvement along with lymph nodes and fever.
Okay.
The most serious sequelae, though, of Kawasaki disease is the problem that it can cause serious issues with the heart. So of heart attack in an adult, this is the most common cause. This is the cause of a heart attack in a child. So a child can have a heart attack because of Kawasaki's disease.
But how do we get from mouth, skin, lymph nodes to heart?
Right. As I said, it's an inflammatory condition, right? So basically, there is inflammation triggered. I think we'll be talking about it a little later, but there is inflammation all over the body, affecting mainly what we call medium-sized blood vessels. And one of the medium-sized blood vessels occur around the heart. It can occur, it exists in the brain as well and in the, other areas. But because those medium-sized blood vessels surrounds the heart, the same vessels that get clogged up and cause a heart attack, children, the Kawasaki disease affect these blood vessels around the heart and, can cause a heart attack when they're compromised.
So we know this, the intricacies of Kawasaki disease as described by you, but what are the causes of it?
Right. So with respect to cause, like many conditions that, we are faced with and that we have to deal with as clinicians, the cause is not fully elucidated, but it's believed to be, there's some association with certain bacterial and viral agents. So you might have heard about Staphylococcus bacteria. That's the thing that cause, pus and, that sort of, when you have a Jamaica call it pus bump on your leg and stuff, it's usually that type of bacteria. Streptococcus infection, which causes sore throat. You might have heard of rheumatic fever. That's the same infection, the same bacteria that, associate with rheumatic fever. So those two bacteria has strong association with Kawasaki disease. And there are also various viruses. So even in Jamaica, when we on the wards where we treat patients with Kawasaki disease, we notice that sometimes there's a little cluster. So we like see nobody for 6 months, and then suddenly we have 3 or 4 patients with Kawasaki disease. Sometimes occurring around the flu season, the viral season, and that sort of thing. So they think it's associated with certain viral infections, certain bacterial infections, but they haven't been able to consistently tie down a particular, bacteria in every case or a particular virus in every case.
Okay, so that would answer then my question of whether or not it's contagious, because it sounds contagious if you are getting these clusters shortly after a case.
Right. So, with respect to contagious, no, because what happens is that I might get a particular virus, and for some reason my body responds to it a certain way, triggering this inflammatory cascade. But then you have another child, or you have tons of other children who are exposed to the same virus, and nothing happens. Right. So it has to do with, intrinsic genetics, and that sort of thing. Why some children, and of course, Kawasaki disease was first described in Asian countries and specifically Asian Pacific countries. So in that population, Kawasaki disease is much more prevalent. So there's definitely some genetic sort of predisposition.
Okay. All right. So when I am suspicious that my child or a child around me has Kawasaki disease, what am I looking for? What are those symptoms?
And that is important because, as I said before, most children with Kawasaki disease, it's a self-limiting illness. So the child might have Kawasaki disease. You go to the doctor with a fever, right? And funny enough, in some children, the fever might just be the only, dominant symptom. The child might have other things that are missed or are associated with, other conditions. It is going to resolve on its own, and then the child might have a sudden death, right? So he might just die in his sleep because he had a heart attack, right? And then when they do the postmortem, they realize that, my word, the blood vessels around his heart has ballooned out. That is what they call aneurysms. All right. So the symptoms, there's a little acronym that we use to describe. It's called warm cream. So warm stands for fever. So it's fever for 5 consecutive days, right? So the child has this persistent fever. A lot of times when we get the children, they have gone to a lot of doctors, getting antibiotics, getting a lot of stuff, and the fever not going away. All right, so it's fever for 5 days plus these other symptoms. So the child may have the C in the cream, I said warm cream, so fever for 5 days, the C for conjunctivitis, right? And it's a specific type of conjunctivitis. You know, we talk about pink eye, where you get the redness of the eye, and it's associated with a discharge, right? So
Yeah.
in Kawasaki disease is a non-purulent conjunctivitis. So they have red eye and there's no discharge at all. You understand? The child's eyes are just red and nothing. No discharge, no pus, no nothing coming, no matting, nothing from the eye. So they call it a non-purulent conjunctivitis. R stands for rash, right? So we say cream, C, conjunctivitis, R for rash. So we describe what is called a well, it can be any rash except a vesicular bullous rash. And by vesicular bullous, we mean there's no, chicken pox, you have these vesicles, water bump.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. No. No, we're talking.
You're getting it right. So it shouldn't be anything looking like a water bump, whether a small water bump or a large water bump, but it can be any rash. You can get a fine, rash all over the body. You can get whatever the rash is, but it shouldn't be water bump type rash, right?
Okay.
Where are we now? So E
E.
for erythema of the hands and feet. Erythema means redness and swelling of the hands and feet. So, the child might come in the office and the thing that trigger you to say, wait, something not right about this child. When you look at the child's hands, that's why it's important, when you see children, you examine them thoroughly because you don't want to miss, a subtle swelling of the back of the hand. Right? If you see that in the context of this fever and a conjunctivitis, act on it urgently. A is for adenopathy, the Waxan canal that we talk about, and it's a very specific type of lymph node. So what they have is one-sided lymph node. So they have a neck node, one side of the neck, and it should be a good size, about 1.5 to 2 centimeters big, right? If you see multiple nodes on both sides, it's unlikely, right? Or less likely, right? All right. So, and M is for your mucocutaneous. So you have a strawberry tongue, redness and cracking of the lips, right? Strawberry tongue, they call it a red strawberry. Strawberry, you have it's red and they have the little pikes on it.
Yes.
So the what you call those again? The papillae on the tongue, they're quite prominent, and the tongue is red. The child's mouth is red, his lips are red, right? Quite erythematous. So if you see those symptoms, it's a clinical diagnosis. You're not waiting on any blood test, right? So if you have a child who has fever for 5 days and have 4 of any of these symptoms, that child has Kawasaki's disease and needs to be urgently treated. Urgent management is important.
And the easy way to remember that is by using the term warm cream.
Yes.
Warm cream. Okay. So the fever for 5 consecutive days, that has a time span. So I'm assuming that there is a time span for Kawasaki disease, or does it differ from patient to patient?
Yeah. So usually it resolves within 12 days, right? And most patients are happy when the fever is gone and, the child is getting better and that sort of thing. But, they would have already developed complications, right? And are at risk for heart attack and other serious complications.
So is heart attack the only complication from having this illness?
Right. So anywhere there are medium-sized vessels, you can have, involvement. I had a child. All right. So let me say this quickly. It occurs commonly in children 1 to 5 years, right? If the child is less than a year or greater than 5 years, the disease is more severe, right? So we had a child who was about 8 years, and you hardly think of Kawasaki at that age, right? And they usually present with atypical features. That child presented, she had a fever. The fever just continued for a little while. She didn't have classic symptoms because the older one tend not to have classic symptoms. They were treating her for fever, treating her for an infection, and that sort of stuff. Her belly became distended and swollen. They did the ultrasound, and it showed some, bad signs of inflammation inside of her tripe, her abdomen, her gastrointestinal tract. She was transferred and had a laparotomy done. Basically, they opened her to check what is going inside the tripe, and when they opened up her belly, our gut was dead, right? All they saw inside was black, right? Our tripe was black, and they literally had to close her back and just leave her, right? So she died. Okay. So,
Oh, so there's no, once that happened, there was no coming
yeah,
back from
so
that.
that's it. You understand? So you can have very severe complications. It can affect vessels inside the brain as well. But the significant or the most common complication is really, the heart.
So that sounds dreadful. And I can't imagine any child having to go through something like that. So I would like to know that there is hope in the form of treatment options for Kawasaki disease.
Yeah, and I would say, hope in the form of recognizing the symptoms early. You understand? Because that is just an awareness. It occurs, like probably 1 in 4,000 cases, right? But that one case is going to be significant, right? As I say, it's the most common cause of heart disease, especially in developed countries. In developing country, in our setting, probably second to rheumatic fever, right? But when a child is affected that way, it's significant. So it's just an awareness that if you have a child is having any of these symptoms, you can help your doctor. A lot of doctors don't think about it because they don't manage children often. So you might be a general practitioner who, you see your adults, you see your ONG, you see your children, but you need to consult a pediatrician who really specialize in managing these conditions, so that the child can be referred and managed appropriately and quickly. There's treatment available, but the treatment has to start early, right? Once, the first couple of days are passed, the treatment produce little or no benefit, okay? So the treatment consists of what we call immunoglobulins. They're basically antibodies. When you have an infection, your body produces antibodies to fight the infection. You
Yes.
give the baby or give the child immunoglobulins inside the vein, and we find that this reduces the risk of the inflammation and the heart disease. It's a very expensive medication. It can range from $500,000 to $750,000. So if you have a
Wow.
9-year-old child, the treatment is probably $1 million. The good thing is that it's provided by government, right? So the Ministry of Health, the National Health Fund make that medication available to us so that we can treat, children without them having to come up with this money right away.
Oh, that's good news to hear. So is it the one injection, or is it a course of treatments?
Right. It's one, infusion of the immunoglobulin, but you might have to repeat it, right? So we usually get very scared when we have a child who don't respond to the one, and we have to give them another 750, $750,000 a second dose, right? So some children do require a second dose, and we also start them on aspirin as well to reduce the inflammation.
So what about preventative measures like vaccinations? Are those effective in possibly playing a role in treatment or preventing us from getting, or preventing children from getting Kawasaki disease?
Kawasaki, not at all. Actually, there's no known preventative, strategies. We don't know who is going to react to a virus or to a bacteria, producing Kawasaki in that child, right? So the most important thing is awareness. And parents is your child. You're going to a doctor. Some parents go to 6 different doctors before it's diagnosed, and by the time you diagnose it, it's too late. So consider it. You see a child eyes looking a little red, him having fever, him hand swollen. Say to the doctor, "Doctor, I think my child has Kawasaki. Can I get a referral? To have it sorted out." So it's a prevention in terms of awareness, early identification, and acting. I think is the most crucial thing, preventative strategy with respect to its complications.
All right. So that was the run through. We have covered quite a lot as it concerns to Kawasaki disease, what it is, what the causes are, the signs and symptoms, its lifespan or how long it lasts, as well as possible complications and treatment that is available. Is there anything that I'm missing or forgetting to ask as it relates to this, or anything else that you want to share concerning Kawasaki disease?
Just to say that, we also the patient would have to be admitted to hospital, of course, for treatment. We run some additional blood tests. Follow-up is also important post-treatment, right? So the patient would need to do an echocardiogram, which is an ultrasound of the heart, and that will check on the blood vessels around the heart. And 1 in 4 children, so most children, if left untreated, is going to have some, involvement of the vessels. And it needs to be repeated at 6 weeks because, we check for resolution. So a significant number of them will show resolution when we repeat the echo at 6 weeks, and then we'll follow the children after that.
Okay. All right. So the conversation isn't quite done yet. We're going to take a very, very short break, and we're going to come back and talk about natural remedies and if they can help with Kawasaki disease. See you soon.
A recent study by the National Sleep Foundation found that playing video games, checking emails and text messages, or watching television at night may be depriving us from getting enough sleep. Nearly 95% of people questioned in the study said they use some type of electronics in the hour before going to bed, and about 2/3 admitted they do not get enough sleep during the week. Exposure to artificial light before going to bed can increase alertness and suppress the release of melatonin, a sleep-promoting hormone. That's a fact. But there's hope. You can make a big positive impact on sleep, mood, health, relationships, stress management, work productivity, and academic performance by making a small change in electronic use before bed. So, switch your device for a book at least a few evenings a week and have a better night's sleep.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church Central Jamaica Conference, in association with Ebenezer and the Clear Park Family of God, Spanish Town, St. John's, and Sydenham districts of churches, invites you to the Blessed Hope Evangelistic Series with international evangelist Jeffrey Harriott. Starting August 4, every evening at 7:15 except Thursdays, and then on Sabbaths at 9:15 a.m. under the Big Tent at 58 Brunswick Avenue, Spanish Town, St. Catherine. Come for health and wellness programs, prayer tower sessions, free weddings, marital counseling, soul-stirring praise and worship, prizes, surprises, and more.
Thank you for sticking around and staying and listening to the discussion that we're having today with Dr. Price on Kawasaki disease. Now, if you're just joining us, it's not too late. The conversation is continuing, although it's winding down. But we want to thank you for staying and commenting on the YouTube page. Now, I see Julia, Maxine, they are expressing shock and awe at the information that is being shared here tonight, because this would be my first time hearing about Kawasaki disease, and to know the extent to which it can affect a child. I think because it affects children as well, it kind of pulls at the heartstrings even more. But that's just me. I wanted to know, in your experience so far as a pediatrician, how many cases in Jamaica have you seen? I know you described, I think, at least two. Well, how many cases have you seen?
Well, we see cases every year, right? So I mean, yeah, it's not as esoteric as we might think. I would say every year we probably see about 3 cases, 2 to 3 cases. So we see cases every year. I don't have the statistics for Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's not as far fetched as we think.
Oh, wow. Okay. Let's be vigilant, everyone. Let's look at these signs, write them down. Wait, what do you call it? Repeat the acronym in your brain so that you can remember it, especially in times of crisis, especially when it's going to come right in handy. We have a question, and it asks, should children get the flu shot after Kawasaki?
Um, well, and I suppose Douglas is asking with respect to the use of aspirin, to treat children with Kawasaki. Um, and he asks about a condition called Reye syndrome, which if you are on aspirin and you get, a condition like influenza, it can cause problems with the liver, right? So yes, we do recommend the flu shot for children.
Okay. And is it something that children can get again?
It's very, very, very rare. I've never seen a child having it twice. Yeah, so it's very rare to begin with, and a recurrence is extremely uncommon.
Okay. So, could natural remedies help with Kawasaki disease?
Well, I mean, I I am not aware. The thing with natural remedies is that natural remedies are generally good, as we know. So general supportive measures, just good health. I mean, eating well, um, eating things that will cause less inflammation inside the body, and that sort of thing. But in terms of prevention, I'm not aware of any natural remedies that will prevent Kawasaki. Because
Okay.
as I said to you, it's what we call an idiosyncratic reaction in terms of who will respond. So we can have 4,000 children, and just that one child, based on his whole makeup, end up developing Kawasaki, and the other 3,000, children are fine, or 3,000 plus children are fine.
I really do appreciate conversations like these because you never really know what you need to know until you know it. Julia is saying that this is her first time hearing about this disease. And so that further highlights the importance of the work that we do here at Your Health and You, bringing awareness, archiving them on this digital platform so that all of our Jamaican and Canadian and Costa Rican viewers can tune in and be edified. So we have all the information, I'm assuming, that we need to know to give us a basic understanding of Kawasaki disease that affects children, young children, like age from what, age 1 to 5, is that right?
1 to 5, but children as young as 3 months can get it, and when they get it, it's more severe. Right, so that's another very important point, right? The younger children, they get it more severe, and they don't present with the cream. You understand? So those are the ones that are very difficult to identify. So they might not have the swelling to the hands, the redness to the mouth, but they might just have a fever and the lymph node, right? That sounds like regular flu. You understand? So
Yeah.
that's why those little tinier ones are difficult to pick up, and you have to act with a high index of suspicion. Right? So we say if you have a child and he's having this persistent fever, you just cannot find what is causing it, consider Kawasaki. All right? Consider Kawasaki.
So let us be vigilant, and please, 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 the health and the safety of our children is absolutely, absolutely important. So once you see these signs, visit the nearest pediatrician. You should be doing your regular checkups anyway, but if there's anything that seems out of the ordinary, please see your pediatrician. It could save that child's life. So we are going to wrap up here tonight our discussion on Kawasaki disease. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And thank you again, Dr. Price, for giving us your expert insight into this disease. Please remember, all of you who are watching, to share this video, share this information with someone that you know. And remember, as we always close off the program, the words of 3 John 2. It says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth." Until the next fourth Thursday, I'm Janelle Powell. Goodbye.